Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Ankalaev versus Walker rematch. And if you are new around here though and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Ankalaev is 18-1-1 with 10 KOs and no submissions. Walker is 21-7 with 16 KOs and 3 submissions. This fight is a 5-round fight in the light heavyweight division. Their last fight ended in a no contest due to an illegal knee. Walker is 6'6" with an 82-inch reach, and Ankalaev is 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. So, speak about what I've just said there. Obviously, they're both coming into this rematch having the first fight being a very strange ending and not really an ending which anybody wanted to see happen, and so realistically we shouldn't really be getting this rematch, but we are, and it's a headline event now, so it's going to be a 5-round fight instead of, I believe it was a 3-round fight before, I might be wrong, but either way it's going to be interesting to actually hopefully now see the whole fight play out. Obviously, like I mentioned, the ending was very strange and ended in a way that was very unexpected with the illegal knee, which then seemed like it wasn't really a problem and everybody seemed like they were fine, but then the referee, speaking to Walker and didn't really fancy letting Walker continue for not really too much of a reason why. Yeah, not really too sure, but obviously going into the fight on paper, Walker being the much taller fighter, like against most in the division, he is the much taller fighter. Obviously he uses that range well. That 82-inch reach compared to Ankalaev's 75 is drastic, but Ankalaev is very good at getting in on the inside, and so it's going to be interesting to see how Walker manages to kind of stop Ankalaev coming in. And in the first fight, from the little bit that we actually saw, Ankalaev managed to get in and managed to get a takedown relatively easily, and so obviously it seemed like it wasn't too much of a problem, but that was only in the early parts of the round, and Ankalaev could tire trying to force the fight in the inside the whole time, and possibly that can play into Walker's favour. But to speak about them both as fighters, Ankalaev as a fighter, he knows when he has you hurt. I think we've seen that in fights. He's hurt opponents quite badly and does know how to deal with fighters when they have you hurt. And to be fair, even when he seemingly had Walker a little bit hurt in the first fight, he did capitalise and was winning the round convincingly before that of the illegal knee. So you never know where that round could have led on to if that illegal knee was not shot. He smothers you when, like I say, when he's got you hurt, he knows how to smother you. He counters well, he's accurate, he's got good body kicks, he takes a shot, he can take a shot well. Obviously in the fight versus Blachowicz, he took a lot of net leg kicks and was really getting punished to the legs, but he seems to kind of take it quite well and deal with it relatively well. Obviously he did look in pain and obviously they were hurting him, but to be able to go through the whole 5 rounds and manage to win the fight when clearly in a lot of pain, you kind of got to give credit to that, and it was impressive for him to be able to do that. He controls the centre, he's got fast kicks, and they're hard to predict. They are difficult to counteract and to time counters against. He changes levels, he picks shots nicely, he throws with intent, he's good at closing the distance like I mentioned, and he does capitalise when he is on top, and he has got good ground and pound, and like I say, he is very capitalistical, that's not the right word, he is very dominant when on top, and so you don't really want to be put there by him, and he is physically strong, and so if he does get you there, he will of course make you pay, and it's not going to be the best night if you do end up on the back against him, even though he's not really known for putting out any submissions really. He doesn't really try for that, he does just more try for punishing blows, and with the power and the intent that he does throw with, he does kind of do that. Negatives about him, I mean, he may run in when he has you hurt, possibly then you can get timed, but it's a very hard thing to do, especially when you've got somebody just sprinting at you. His defensive movement, he hasn't really got any of that, hasn't really got any head movement, hasn't really got much lateral movement, and so he's definitely there to get hit. He's willing to take shots to then give his own, and he, like I say, against Blachowicz, he took a lot of punishment in that fight. He doesn't really have a crazily high output, neither does Walker, to be fair. He will sometimes sit in range too long, possibly wait too long to throw his shots. He, like I say, has been hurt to the leg, and so that shows that he can be hurt to the leg, and that was more when he changed to southpaw, and so possibly him switching between the two stances isn't the best thing for him. He sometimes doesn't make the necessary adjustments. I think it was clear to see that he was struggling against Blachowicz because he was changing to southpaw, and if he'd have just made them adjustments and maybe not changed to it so much, and maybe being able to see that the leg kick was coming, because it was coming quite a lot, and it was becoming not predictable but relatively, like, you could see it to an extent, and you knew it was going to happen at some point because he was finding success with it every time. Possibly then you've got to make the adjustments to then be able to counteract that, and he didn't really do that. He can tire, and sometimes his takedowns aren't overly consistent. Going back to that Blachowicz fight again, I feel like that's the best fight to really go back to, because that was the time where he was first tested at the top level, and obviously he came through and won, but he showed weaknesses in that fight. Takedowns aren't his massive forte. He's physically strong, but sometimes the attempts aren't amazing. I think he managed to get 2 out of like 9 or something like that. It wasn't a crazy high percentage of takedowns that he actually managed to succeed in that fight, and so I feel like this fight probably will be on the feet most of the time. Walker as a fighter though, he's unorthodox, he's unpredictable. I feel like that's inevitable with him, and that people are not expecting that. Well, fans are expecting that, but of course it's unpredictable, and you still can't really write what strikes he's going to end up throwing. He has that striking variation which is just so unconventional, and that's what a lot of the time he can catch his opponents out with. He changes levels. He has got very good kicks. His kicks, in my opinion, are his forte. He can fight on the front or the back foot. He can counter. He's got good scramble game when he's being taken down, and so I don't feel like Ankalaev might be able to get him inside and be able to smother him the whole time, because he does have relatively good scramble, Walker, and it'd be interesting to see how that ends up playing out. He can keep a range, and if he can keep a range against Ankalaev, it will go into his favour, of course. If he's allowed time, he can pick his shots, and he's willing to work and can be dominant if he's allowed time, and he was allowed time against Smith, and he completely just went to work against him. Every shot looked like they were punishing, and he picked his shots relatively nicely. He plays his game. He doesn't really get drawn into opponents' games, which is kind of what you want, and it just means that possibly he's a bit one-dimensional at times. He doesn't force the fight though either, which is also nice to see, because a lot of fighters sometimes do rush in, force the fight, and try and go for the knockout, try and go for the stoppage, and you don't necessarily have to do that, and he didn't do that against Smith. He felt like he probably could have got the stoppage, but he knew that the Smith was always going to be able to throw his own shots and be a person to watch out for whatever condition he was in, and so he didn't force the fight. Negatives about Walker: he's been hurt bad. We've seen that. We've seen him get stopped badly in the past. He does stand upright. His chin is in the air. He's got a weak guard, and so there's all defensive things, striking wise, which aren't going to go in his favour. He can struggle to get off the back when he is put on his back. He can be timed coming in when he does. Sometimes he does overcommit a little bit. He's not as accurate, in my opinion, as Ankalaev, unless he's allowed a lot of time. His reflexes aren't amazing. His head movement isn't really got any. Not a crazy high output, like I mentioned. He's open to counters. He can struggle against speed, and he don't really have much speed himself. I would say Ankalaev's kicks are faster than what Walker's are, and he can look a bit uncontrolled at times. But when he is on the back foot, he can sometimes just look like he's just throwing just for the sake of it and just to try and get somebody off of him. And so, he does look a little bit uncontrolled at times. Ankalaev is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Ankalaev will win via TKO in round 3. I think it's going to be a relatively convincing performance. I think possibly Walker could even hurt Ankalaev a little bit, but I believe Ankalaev, as soon as he gets in close, he's going to be able to be dominant and going to be able to be punishing, and I think he is levels above Walker. I would like to say so. Obviously I could be wrong, but I would like to say so. And Ankalaev, I feel like he's going to end up putting some shots and putting together a couple shots, and possibly if it's them kicks, or possibly if it's just a powerful throw that he throws himself, then I feel like he's going to be able to get the stoppage win mid-rounds, possibly mid to late rounds. I'd say round 3. And then who he could go on to fight next? Obviously the two main guys in the division at the moment, Pereira and Hill. If we're waiting to see them fight, I don't know if they're going to fight next, but if we are waiting to see, we'll have to wait and see. Pereira possibly might be moving up to heavyweight, so not entirely sure what's going on with him. So Jamal Hill is another option there, or the Blachowicz fight again could be a big fight. The Blachowicz fight last time was an entertaining fight, and it was a close fight, and so that fight could end up happening again, and I wouldn't be against it. But yeah, that's it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed like the video, and thanks for watching.